Hello, this is Steve, your YouTube English teacher, with another weekly video. You should know what's coming if you've been watching the last 3 weeks. It is Use of English Part 4, the most common question types. I'm going to go through the most typical B2 questions, the most typical C1 questions, give an example, and explain the grammar that they expect you to know for Use of English Part 4 on the B2 and C1 exam. Let's get straight into it because you know what we're doing by now. If you don't know what Part 4 is, go and Google it, go and watch my other videos on it. But it's this, isn't it? It's where you have a sentence and then a key word, and then you have to complete another sentence using that word, using in B2 between 2 and 5 words. So here we have the first common question type. What I would recommend you do is try and answer it. Pause the video, try and answer it. How would you complete this sentence so it means the same? Pretty typical B2 question. Testing the use of gerunds. This is an expression that uses the gerund. Do you know the expression? That will give you 1 mark. Do you know that it needs the gerund, and have you used the gerund? The ing. When we say gerund, we obviously mean ing, the verb in the ing form, used as a noun or continuous, or used a lot in English. Anyway, you should have had enough time to answer it now. And the answer is, if you shouldn't worry, then there is no point worrying. You're going to get 1 point for there is no point, and 1 point for worrying, like I said. So that's a really common B2 grammar feature, is using the gerund. You could also say there isn't any point worrying. For a C1 question, a little bit more difficult. Can you complete this? Pause the video, try and do it. A bit of a problem with the structure of this video is that it's the same grammar point. So you've got a little clue. Again, you know you need a gerund somewhere. If there is a good chance, then the expression is someone stands a good chance. So I think you stand a good chance. Now we've got 6 words. What preposition are we going to use? We're going to use a preposition. We're going to use the gerund. It's of getting or of being hired. You will get the job. You have a good chance of getting. We've also made it a bit passive, haven't we? It's a bit more like you will be hired. You have a good chance of being or of getting hired. Passive or causative, to make it a bit more difficult for C1. So your first grammar point is using the gerund. Number 2, complete the sentence, pause the video. I think I have to go faster because I've got 10 questions for B2, 10 for C1, so let's get a move on. This time it's the infinitive. If I had a great time, then it was a pleasure. That's going to be the first part. And then pleasure, I've made a bit of a mess of this question because the idea is it's like an adjective, like it was pleasing, it was nice. After an adjective, we use the infinitive. This one's a bit more just like an expression, to be honest. It was pleasurable, it was fun to meet you. Adjective plus infinitive, or in this case, it was a pleasure to do something. Let's do the same for C1. Pause the video, try and answer it. Take your time, think, read the sentence carefully. What does it mean? What do you need to say? You're going to need the infinitive again. If you don't feel like doing something, didn't feel like, past tense, then she was reluctant. And this is an adjective, so we must use the infinitive. And to draw attention to something without is to point out. Phrasal verb meaning draw attention to is to point out. So 1 point for knowing how to use reluctant in the past tense. 1 point for knowing is, well, honestly, it'd probably be was reluctant to would be 1 point. And then point would be the other mark or point. Grammar point 3. This is obvious what it is, isn't it? Pause the video. Common B2 question, possible C1, bit easy for C1, is conditionals, specifically third conditionals. We were late because we were delayed. We would have arrived on time. Little trick, isn't there? If you're late, you're not on time. You could say in time as well. On time sounds a bit more natural, because you're not saying in time for the start of the film. In time means arriving with time to spare. On time just means not late. And here we're saying you're not late, or you wouldn't have been late. Can we do the same thing for C1? Slightly more difficult structure, but it is still a third conditional. When I leave these pauses in my speech, it's for you to pause the video and try and do these questions yourself. That's the whole point of these exercises, is for students who really want to do it. So it is another third conditional. And we're starting with had is a slightly different way of using the third conditional, isn't it? If it had, we can also say had it. This is a negative though. There would have been a disaster had it not been for his quick thinking. Had it not been for means if this hadn't happened. The use of for there, also a little bit irregular, part of a phrase. But the point is, you need to be comfortable with third conditionals for B2 and C1, use of English Part 4. Number 4, what are we looking at here? This is a clever one. I'm quite happy with what I did here. You answered it, well done. I'm saying it's inversion, okay? It's sort of reported speech, isn't it? Because someone asked a question and then you say, oh, Fiona asked Alice. And you know how to do reported speech. When did you see the film? This is past simple. So in reported speech, we need to go past perfect. You back shift one tense because you asked her in the past about something in the past of the past. Past perfect. When she had seen. That's why I'm saying it's inversion, isn't it? Because it's not when had she seen the film, because that would be a question. We do not invert the subject and the auxiliary verb, because it's not a question. It's reported speech. You can't see a question mark. It's not a question. So I'm saying this is like an inversion question, which C1 students should be much more familiar with, because the important thing for 1 point is the subject and verb not being inverted. For C1, now you should know your inversion. Pause the video, answer the question, and of course the answer is, if you'll never do it, then it's under, this is an expression that you need to know for C1, under no circumstances. And if I will never, then we need to invert this, because this is one of these negative sentence starters that requires inversion. So will I ever? That's a good C1 question. If I will never do it, then under no circumstances will I ever. You can see the inversion of will and I, like we said before, the subject and the auxiliary verb are inverted. In this case, they are inverted because we're using one of these negative sentence starters like seldom, rarely, never before, and all these ones. Only, sentence starters that you can look at in my other C1 Use of English Part 4 video where we go into some detail about them. Grammar point 5. We can see what this is, can't we? Much faster than, the rosemary and the mint. We're doing a little answer the question. We're comparing them. So comparatives, to compare, make a comparison. The mint is, the rosemary is growing much faster. The mint is, the rosemary is not growing as fast as, right? The mint is, I think we have to say that with the word as, we have to say the mint is not growing as fast as the rosemary. So one is faster than the other one is not as fast as that one. That's how we use as and as, this comparative phrase for B2 and maybe for C1 as well. Pause the video, answer this question. Think about the logic. Next week is far healthier. This week's is something with nowhere near. It is another comparative. It's C1, so it's a little bit more difficult. They won't just make you say bigger than, smaller than. They'll make you say, for example, nowhere near, which is a way of saying, emphasizing, like far healthier means much more. Nowhere near means much less. So it's nowhere near as healthy as. It's another one with as healthy. 2 points for that. If you got it, well done. We're halfway through. Let's keep going. Grammar point number 6. Oh, this is an easy one, isn't it? Quite a satisfying one. I'm expecting 2 marks from lots of people here. Pause the video. Give yourself a mark. Of course, it's a passive question. Elia Kazor founded the company. That is a subject, a verb, and an object. Now in my sentence that I'm transforming, I'm starting with what was the object. So I've moved the object. We need a passive sentence. He founded it. It was. And then a word with founded, with set, the most common phrasal verb when you Cambridge exams, set up by Elia Kazor. We need by for the passive to say who did it, don't we? So that's your B2 passive question. What about C1? Authorities believe the criminals. Slightly more difficult. It is a passive question, but it's the one with believe, like say, believe, think. Someone is thought to do something, or thought to be, or thought to have done something in the past tense. The criminals are believed, and then they got away. They are believed to have escaped or to have got or gotten away. You can have either because it's 6 words. But the point is, because this is in the past, this needs to be in the past, and we use the infinitive to. I believe to have done something. I believe to be. So the way of forming the past tense with this is they are believed to have done something. That's how we do that, a passive sentence. Well done if you got it. If you didn't, go and study passive. I'll go and watch my other videos, like I said. Go and study it. It's in every grammar book anyway. Question number 7. Another common one. And the grammar point I'm saying here is negatives. This is a really common one. So if I don't intend to do it, how much intention do I have? I have no intention, meaning I have no intention. I have 0 intention. Absolutely nada, zilch, zip, and so on. And then for your second point, how do we use this phrase? It's with of, is with the gerund. I have no intention of doing something. I have no intention of running. I don't intend to run. That's a common one for your B2 exam, that expression. Can we do the same for C1? We don't have any reason. It is also some reported speech, so be careful. Here is the answer after you have done it yourself. So it is negatives. They had, I'm already giving you the answer. We don't have any reason. He said they. This is present tense. We need past simple. They had no reason because they didn't have any reason. And then to suspect is going to say stay the same. We just borrow that from the first sentence. Point 8. Oh, this is a good one as well. Like I said in other videos, I have made these questions by reading dozens of previous exams and dozens of textbooks and all my years of experience. And I see this type of question again and again. So you need to know how to do this. This is a common one on the exam. One of the most common ones. That's the point of the video. You've answered it by now because you're not just listening to me talking. You're actually doing something here. The grammar point is come as a shock, strike someone as. These kind of come as, strike me as. The use of as in these phrases is really common. So I was surprised. Her appointment came as a surprise to me. That is how we use this expression. It came as a surprise to me. We can also say came as a shock, came as a, I don't know. I don't want to say the next one because we might have something similar in C1. The answer is, so this grammar point is the same, but I've made it a little bit more difficult because we're using they were disappointed. So it came as a disappointment to these people. Disappointed. It came as a disappointment. We need the noun. Well done if you got that. Number 9, wish. We can see straight away what this is. It's the regret, the wish, the if only. Another really common question with a weird little bit of grammar that you need to be familiar with. I regret not studying it. What does that mean? Well, here comes the answer with an explanation. If I regret not studying it, that means I didn't study it. So I wish, I'm wishing about something in the past. So I need to use wish with past perfect because I wish I was taller is talking about the present. I wish it was cooler outside because it's 45 degrees where I live. I wish it was cooler. I wish it was cooler. I use the past tense to talk about the present. So to talk about the past, I use the past perfect. I wish I had studied. Well done if you got that. Can you do the same in a little bit more difficult way? I regret not being more attentive. Good question. It's the same point. Now you've practiced it. This should be easy. I wish I had and you were attentive. What goes with attention? Paid. More attentive, paid more attention. Paid obviously needs to be spelled correctly. It is irregular. You will lose a mark if you spell it wrong because this is an English exam. You need to write English according to the standard rules that we all agree on. Last question for these most common ones. Well, there's no point explaining this. Sometimes you just have an expression. And I want to include this to make a point. That is, you need to read and watch and live everything as much as you can in English to pick up these kind of expressions because there's no other way of learning them. I guess you could read a book of 1,000 English expressions. That would be very, very boring. But if these kind of expressions come up in conversation, if you talk to people, in books, if you read, they do come up, you will learn them. And it's this kind of question where the only way you're going to get it is by saying, oh, it goes, and you just know it because you've heard it before. The answer is, it goes without saying. If something is clear, then it goes without saying. That's a kind of B2 level expression I think they might ask you to be able to produce. Sort of similar in many languages, this expression anyway, but you have to know how to use it correctly. And the same for C1. I have no idea. The way of saying this with telling, it's an expression. Don't say I. Don't say, honestly, I can't be telling. No. There's an expression, a specific expression, which is, there is no telling. There is no telling who will win the match means we don't know. It's impossible to say. There is no telling. I have no idea. So learn these expressions by reading, watching, speaking, doing life in English. Again, what I'd recommend for homework is go back through these 10 categories that hopefully you've been taking notes on, right? I'm giving you the title, I'm giving you a sample, I'm explaining it. Go back through each category and try and make your own question. Not that difficult to make your own question for the first 9. Give me a different sentence with, I wish I had done something, or I wish I hadn't done it. I regret doing it, I wish I hadn't done it. Make it a bit more, try and include a phrasal verb. Remember, there's going to be 2 points for each question, so you normally need to make them a little bit difficult. Like here, you have to know came as, and you have to know disappointed, disappointment. Play with them, try and make your own questions for each of these to add to your notes. That's how you're really going to improve on these use of English parts. Right, I hope that was useful. I'm going to take a little break for summer, I think, and I'll be back in September when we start school again with all the fresh-faced new kids. Have a good one. Goodbye.